Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back, as Lupe Fiasco would say, to the Run It Back podcast. We have been out on our feet for a couple of weeks and it has been extremely disappointing. I get it. You're upset. You might be a little bit angry, but don't worry. Sugar Snags is back in your ear and I'm bringing the boys to you as well. So before we get too far into it, ISO Chat with Snags is back today. Please hold your applause till we get through it. I'm not going to ask him questions as I usually do. We're just going to get straight into it. DL, producer DL, welcome back, my friend. How are we feeling? How are we?
I'm excited that the potty's back. I'm also really excited that the boys are all on the line. Little malfunction in the pod room.
I would say sagas. We had sagas in the pod room.
We had a few sagas, but our roadcaster died. But the boys from Road hooked us up super quick and got us back on the air, which is great. The break was good. I probably have a little confession to drop.
Wasn't it a Stoney segment at one stage? Confessions with Stoney.
We should have done Confessions with Stoney. That's actually got some.
A good one. Anyway, roll through. I want to hear it.
That's got some legs. I probably didn't watch as much fights as you would expect a person on an MMA podcast to watch in a break.
You didn't have to do your research.
I'm looking at a few of the boys to get carried tonight, so hopefully they can help me out. But anyway, break was good. But before we get too far into it, I know there's a nice little segment coming up that's an old favourite, so we won't dive in too much, but we've got a few COVID-related issues again in our great state of Victoria. So Stoney's disappeared to his house, about 200 metres up the road. Stoney, how are you?
Good, mate. I actually think I can hear a double take from your echo. We're that close. It's but it's disappointing not to be in the same room. And if you're looking for the boys to carry you this week, it's fine because we've been carrying Sugar Snags with our predictions and MMA-related knowledge for many months. So more than happy to give you a chop out, once, DL. You've earned some credit.
Can confirm.
Perfect stitch up.
Oh, is that it from you, Stoney? I thought you were going to keep going, brother. Jesus, we've gone in early tonight, boys. Snags is back here. Look, Stoney, appreciate it, mate. We're going to introduce our other co-host, man with a fair bit of change. So probably hear about that in ISO Chat with Snags. Statman, Kragos, how are we?
Mate, I'm doing well. I'm excited to be back in the podcast room by myself, but I was seeing your beautiful faces. It's lovely.
Oh, cute.
It's all right, DL. I've been watching a fair bit of MMA, so I should be able to keep you up to date with it. There's been about like 6 or 7 events since we've last released a podcast, which is kind of crazy. Huge changes in the world of the MMA. Another big event last weekend, just gone, the UFC 252, which we'll touch on, which we did submit picks for on our Instagram, officially licensed picks. So we'll go over them later, and I'm excited.
Awesome, boys. Well, let's not waste any time. Let's get this podcast rolling with a little ISO Chats with Snags.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to ISO Chat with Snags. I'll be your host, Sugar Snags, as per usual. Boys, welcome back to one of the most touted segments of our podcast. Bit of ISO Chat with Snags. We're back in ISO with a bit of round 2 COVID going on, especially in Victoria. So the boys are back isolated. So we're just going to see what's been happening since last ISO Chat with Snags. Might kick off with Kragos. Some big moves lately, I hear, my friend.
Yeah, mate. Physically and metaphorically and COD-wise as well. Massive move physically to a new house. Massive move professionally. I've got a little bit of a job promotion, which is very exciting. And also, COD-wise, my KD ratio is through the roof. So I've been able to put a few hours into ye old Warzone. My KD ratio has gone up from a 0.52 to a 0.92, closing in on that 1 KD ratio. Very exciting. I'm basically about to go pro. And then in multiplayer, it's gone from a 0.7 to a 1.5. So, this is, I'm pretty much just an esports legend at the moment. So don't want to brag too much, but
I would say the 2 biggest things that happened in your life took up 5 seconds of that response, and then your Call of Duty death ratio took up the next 68 minutes.
It's in
there with
factors.
the upper.
It factors.
Well, mate, you're carrying me and Dale as per usual in Warzone, so I think Dale and I's kill death ratio is minus 67, and it'll probably stay that way. So I look forward to it. Next up, we've got my boy, arch rival but secretly best friends, Stoney. How are we?
Mate,
what's the update?
Doing really good. No Warzone down this way. I think back in my day, Warzone was a WWE game on PlayStation 1 and I was all about that. But no Call of Duty for Stoney. It must be the season with Craig and the new house. We're actually planning a little move of our own, so just going through the concept design phase. I think we've settled. We're just going back and forth with the builder. So yeah, very exciting down here. Trying to make the most of the situation, get a bit happening in an otherwise fairly bleak end to the winter. Like DL, haven't watched as much fights as I would have hoped. Haven't watched as much live sport as I would have hoped. But looking for a big turnaround in the coming weeks in that phase.
Well, mate, the potty's back, so get around it. Good to have you back as well. Good to see your face. Next up, producer himself, DL. Tell the listeners, what's been going down?
The theme of the podcast seems to be getting a new role at work, so I also got one of those, which takes up a little bit more extra time. Some of that producing stuff gets a little bit pushed to the side at the moment while I'm just adjusting. We've been in that role now for 4 to 6 weeks now, so I've got that balance right. So perfect time for the potty to come back. But it's given me an opportunity while the podcast was off and while ISO is happening is on my weekends I've dug into a couple of little projects that I've got on the go. As the boys know on the podcast, I'm friends with a few musically gifted people. So I've actually dived into a few music producing projects, which has been cool. Also just dabbling on a side, doing a little bit of mentoring for some other podcasts as well, which has been cool. So yeah, if you want to add my Warzone career onto that, it's terrible. So the time off and ISO time is not helping my play. But it's good that the boys still want to have a go with me, so that's great.
Man of many talents, as per usual.
And Snags. We can't forget about you.
Look, the listeners never forget about Snags, just like he never forgets about himself, guys. So, look, the theme at the moment, I think Stoney had the first promotion of the year. Kragos got the second. DL got the third. Snags got one as well. But that promotion has taken me all the way to Melbourne. So I've made the big shift from Sydney to Melbourne with the fam. So we're living down here now. And we moved, actually, fun stat, Craig. The day we got into our house was the day that they announced stage 4 lockdown. So it was, I don't know if that's Victoria prepared.
You told me that you got a job in Victoria. I went, huh. How interesting for you.
I don't know whether they've gone
climbing a stiff cliff.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the state actually went stage 4 lockdown when they heard Snags was coming. So it's not really about Corona. Conspiracy theory. Lock it up, mate. But we're here and mate, enjoying it so far. Beautiful neighbourhood I live in and excited to get around the boys again.
And boys, one of those other new segments is right next. Run it back power rankings.
Run it back. Power rankings.
Now, we've heard power rankings before. We see sports shows all the time. They put their power rankings up. It's simple concept, boys. Simple concept. If you're trending in the MMA world for any reason whatsoever, you can qualify for the Run It Back power rankings. I'm open to suggestions from week to week. So I'm going to give you 5 out of the 10 that we'll have as a constantly running power rankings. As you are listening to our podcast and you think, Joe, what? I think I've got a perfect one for the boys. Shoot it through to us. And I'm sure this will come up during the podcast as well. Perfect power rankings that we can pop in. So, boys, I'm going to skip 1 and 2. So, number 3 in our first addition to the power rankings of Run It Back, I've got Stipe. All the talk was around DC. And Stipe fought a very, very smart fight. And I think it'll come up probably later on the podcast. There might be a little bit of talk about heavyweight goats. I'm going to put Stipe at number 3. I'm going to skip number 4. Skipping number 4. I'm going to put in number 5. What are you doing, Craig?
Sorry, it's my fault. I'm laughing at the thought of a heavyweight goat. Like an actual goat, that's a heavyweight.
I'm looking at Craig. His face is just going red.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Stag started laughing and I hadn't considered it.
Nothing wrong with a heavyweight goat. So Alex Volkanovski's beaten Max twice. We think that's good enough to get him in the power rankings. So we're going to put Alex Volkanovski at number 5. Any problems, boys, so far?
No, none from me.
None from you? Stoney?
All clear from just down the road.
We're comfortable with Stipe and Alex?
I'm going to raise an objection.
Yep, go for it.
I feel it's been a couple of weeks now since Volk Holloway. Mm-hmm. If we're basing this off hype or like media machine, I think Alexander Volkanovski's kind of fallen off the radar at the moment.
Yep.
I think that the MMA crowd in particular is a fickle bunch. I think that they're very, very what's hot, what's in front of them now.
Yep.
And I haven't seen since that fight, because it wasn't a finish and because it wasn't a blowout, I haven't seen Alexander Volkanovski's name piquing much interest recently. So I'm going to dissent. I'm going to say that I'd probably put him in my top 10, but I don't think I'd put him in my top 5.
Okay, cool. Podcast has been around for 6 weeks, so I'm just picking up some of the slack from the last 6 weeks, Craig. So
We haven't heard who's above him, Craig. Like, let's just hear it out.
number 6, I'm taking Amanda Ribas. Who does not love Amanda Ribas? It was a huge win she had, and I'll just give you a little audio of why we love Amanda Ribas.
It was the belly down armbar. I know you're excited to see this. Pahupa's excited to see it as well.
Yes.
Talk us through the finish, if you would, young lady.
Well, I need to move more my hips. Oh, my boobs. No, it's amazing. I can't describe myself now. I'm just emotional. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay. That's quite all right. This is your
So that was Amanda Ribas. We loved her interviews. Everything pre-fight and after fight was fantastic from Amanda Ribas, and she's on an absolute streak. So I think a nice spot, number 6 for Amanda Ribas in our rib power rankings. I'm going to skip number 7. Then I'm going to go to number 8, which I'm going to actually chuck Fight Island into number 8. I thought Fight Island served its purpose. So I'm going to put that into our power rankings at number 8. Finally, this is a quite recent one, but I'm also going to chuck in there at number 10 just because it's really topical at the moment. Dana White versus Oscar De La Hoya.
Finally, last one. I'm a good friend of yours, Oscar De La Hoya, has announced he's coming out of retirement to box again. I just wondered if you had any...
Cocaine isn't cheap. It's expensive. Gotta make money.
Thanks, Dana.
Yep.
Oh, shit. So we all heard it there. So the feud continues. So I felt like that was good enough to slip into number 10. I don't know how long it's going to stay there for, but just out of the 5, I know Craig's got some problem with Volk. Now I've explained the rules to him a little bit better. He's probably okay with it a little bit more. But have I missed anything just in those 5?
I would say a firm no from me.
Is there someone you'd grab and put into that power rankings right now that could feature in the next episode?
We're talking trending
Craig,
discussions.
Stop making me explain to you how this thing works. Just roll with it.
You'd have to chuck John Jones in there, right?
Mate, possibly. John Jones is a definite power ranking
Biggest
option.
news of 2020, I'd say.
Yep.
So number 1.
Firmly.
Anyway, the idea is let's create some good debate amongst the community. I know that rib community is starting to get really deep, which is good, but the boys will bring some power rankings from week on week, which should be fun. It might go for a little bit too long if Craig's involved.
Run it back. Power rankings.
We'll find out who was number 1 next week on the podcast. Boys.
I cannot wait to... that's a segment I just cannot wait to see what Craig does next.
He'll find a way to hate on John Jones somewhere in there, I'm sure. Boys, we're going to run into Hot Take. Segues are plenty. John Jones vacates the lightweight belt and eyes a heavyweight battle with Stipe. Boys.
I'd be highly aroused for that fight. I think John Jones has kind of done everything he can in the lightweight division, even though there would be some good fights there. Heavyweight battle, Stipe, get around it, boys. I'd pay for that.
Look, I'd certainly pay for it. I don't think Johnny Jones deserves to leapfrog Francis. I think Francis has to fight for that one next. But then, boy, I'd love to see John Jones and Francis for the heavyweight, assuming that Ngannou might get it done second time round with Stipe. But yeah, I just don't see how you can throw John Jones in after the run that Francis has had since that first fight.
Short of a rematch with Dominic Reyes, I think that this is probably the best move for John Jones. I completely agree with Snowdy. Give Francis his fight with Stipe. Give John Jones Derek Lewis. I reckon that is an interesting stylistic matchup for him.
Bellator's Valerie Loreda finished Tara Gruff gathered more than 11 million views after her knockout, then signed an extension straight afterwards.
Oh, look, well done. I think knockout was a doozy one from Snags, and she's going to go make bank off the back of it. So let's hope to see a couple more fights in the next couple of months.
Absolutely. Followed Valerie for a while on the Insta. Big fan of Valerie's fighting ability, DL. Don't look at me like that. Also a big fan of Valerie's Insta. And you can look at me like that.
I can't think of another 2-0 fighter who's got more clout behind her before this fight. And it was a lot because of the Insta and Stoney's obsession with it. So obviously it's worked for her. Hopefully she's got a nice contract extension with Bellator. And this could be a star that Bellator really, really rides to the bank.
Sugar Sean, after his loss to Cheeto, said on his podcast, The Timbo and Sugar Show, he's not that good.
That he's not that good? Like Sugar Sean's not that good?
No, the Cheeto's not that good.
I don't know if we'll be able to really see the extent of that comment, because that fight was in its early stages when the injury happened, and then he rolled his ankle as well. So I think, they were working each other out at the start of that fight. I was disappointed that he obviously got injured, seen as my long-lost stepbrother. But fingers crossed they come back and they run that one back, to be honest.
Yeah, look, I'm undecided on this one, DL, but what I do know is what's not that good is leaving on a stretcher, and I'm glad that Cody Garbrandt pointed that out on Twitter.
I'm going to go against, podcast favourite Sugar Sean O'Malley here. I think that he's handled this loss probably about as bad as you can handle a loss. I think he should have taken it on the chin and grown from it, but instead he's turned to Tweeter. Tweeter?
It's a weeder.
That's from American Pie. Remember that dude?
It's a weeder.
Tweeter. He has turned to Twitter and used his words rather than his fighting ability. And I think he probably should stop and then come back later.
A punter dropped $25K on the $7 favourite at Agapova, but was upset by underdog Shayna Dobson, which got me thinking. What's the most money you've lost on a single bet, Snags?
Look, I will not preface this story, but recently in a punters club with some of the boys, I lost, what was it, 400 or 600? What were we up to? 400?
475.
Yeah, it was about $400 on a game that will be named a little bit after, I'm pretty sure.
Stoning.
Mate, DL, you know me, I'm fairly conservative and safe better, but did drop $250 on Connor to beat Khabib, and obviously went down. Understand that in hindsight was a terrible bet, but you stand by it. You learn from these experiences.
What did you get him at?
Well, he was the favourite as well. I can't even remember, but he was the favourite.
Statman.
So obviously, recently we've taken to betting on table tennis. Naturally,
degenerates.
I think naturally, like when I say that the runner back boys are betting on table tennis, you're sitting at home or driving in your car going, yeah, that makes sense. That makes complete sense. So basically, we dropped a fair bit of money on table tennis and we lost. The origin of it is actually where my biggest loss comes from. A few years back, I actually got big into betting on tennis. Took $50, bet it on a $1.30 favourite. Take the winnings, bet it on another $1.30 favourite. You keep going. You withdraw every now and again to make sure that you cover your losses. And eventually, I was betting $5,500 on some Ukrainian tennis player halfway across the world at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. watching Bet365 read me out the results as he went down in straight sets to some fuckwit from Finland. So yeah, $5,500 is probably the most I've lost in a single go.
And doesn't even sound bitter about it either.
Nah, I can't believe you brought this up, Snags. Jesus.
You did get a good takeaway from that, though.
Yeah, I
didn't
did actually. Yeah, so the system that I had, because it's an amazing foolproof system. Basically, every 7 bets you withdraw a sum. So after the first 7, you get your initial deposit back. After the 7, after that, you're getting into some serious money because that's just how compounding interests go. I ended up getting $2,500 back shortly before my $5,500 loss. I managed to propose to my partner in a helicopter above Sydney Harbour, so it was pretty nice. But and that was I was just going to do it by a lake somewhere, but so the
upgrade
the helicopter was much nicer. But Still $5,500 on some Ukrainian bloke whose name I can't remember, and he's lucky I can't remember it. But yeah,
That's fantastic.
The boys have had some fun lately on the old table tennis.
Yeah,
run.
when's that? When do we get
bit
to
of
that
darts
7?
as well? No, I think the most we've got on that
4.
system's up to game 5,
4.
isn't it?
no, game 6. We lost on the 7th game in the first run that we did. So yeah, it was actually a fair bit of money. I can pull up the account and have
please
a look. But yeah,
Rather,
it was a
just
fair
We're
bit of money
embarrassed
that we
as
were
it
betting
is.
on that one. It
But
was,
if anyone wants to jump aboard the Statman system, let the running back crew know, because you can firmly jump in with us next time we have a
absolutely,
roll.
let's go for
I'm
it.
glad my
Got to say, just to jump in, I had a bit of sympathy when he said the 5,500, and then I heard that he proposed in a helicopter, and suddenly I thought he's got enough money surely.
So the system works well.
The system works.
DL, can I just throw a few in there? They're not the most I've lost, but a couple of crazy ones. I once put $1 on a 16,000 to 1 NBA bet and lost by 1 leg. So that was in the 2018-19 season. At the start of the year, I put money on all of the awards that you possibly could. So MVP, I put it on Antetokounmpo, point scoring leader James Harden, 6th man of the year. Pretty sure I went on, and I can't remember his name. He was a Houston fella. He was a short price favourite. He was the one short leg I had. Toronto Raptors, that for the championship. So at the start of the year, they were paying quite a lot. They certainly weren't in the mix. It was actually Anthony Davis for Defensive Player of the Year. And you'll recall that he got to the All-Star break and then threw in the towel because he was wanting that trade to the Lakers. It wasn't forthcoming.
That's right.
So he sat out the back 2 months of that season, and who knows what could have been. But it's 16,000 to 1. That was one that will haunt me for a long time.
insane.
Another bit of a doozy one. I put on Donald Trump to win the 2016 election, and I paired that with Vitor Belfort to beat Musashi at UFC 204, thinking that Vitor will get it done, but Donald Trump probably won't. And in the end, it was the Republican who come through for me and the Brazilian who let me down. So there are a couple of unique bets that I've lost, but obviously not huge amounts on those ones.
That's brilliant. Well, I'm just lucky that my wife doesn't listen to our podcast. She'd fucking kill me if she knew I was betting on table tennis.
Yeah, firmly agreed.
Anyway, boys, we might move on and we'll go into a leaderboard update. Had some interesting results recently, and the podcast missed one of these cards. So we had 2 actually. So it's the Whitaker versus Till card. I got 2. Snags got 2. Statman got 3, and Stoney got 3. So the boys were dueling out, and the Statman and Stoney, unfortunately for me and Snags, they both got bonus points out of that card. So a bit rough on the old boys there. UFC 252. So that was the most recent card that we had, which we'll break down a little bit, like slightly after this, but we won't waste too much time. I only got 2 on that card. Snags picked up 3. Statman picked up 3. And our leader, Stoney, only the 1 on 252. Mate, what happened?
Ooh.
That's rough. Until you mentioned that, I didn't realise I went so bad. So, yeah, that's disappointing. Obviously, I need to start getting my head back in the game. You see this with Conor McGregor. You get too far ahead of the game and you get distractions and you take your eye off the prize, and someone like Statman just emerges out of nowhere, and it's time for me to get focused again and get back in it.
But you're still holding that lead quite nicely, but it's shrunk down to 2. So from bringing it from the rear is old Snags. DL with 45.
Don't mind it if I do.
That's all right. So Snags on 45. DL's on 48. Statman 52. And Stoney 54. So well done, mate. It's quite a big gap starting to open up.
And also, I just want to throw in there, I've been on the Statman for at least 16 weeks now. And when I hedged my bets on the Statman, everyone laughed at me. We're not laughing now. This man is a serious contender.
Conspiracy.
Anyway, boys, we've got a couple of talking points from UFC 252, but we won't spend too much time on it. We did mention it early in the podcast. We talked about big goats. Now, what did we talk about? Huge goats?
Heavyweight
goats.
Heavyweight goats.
So heavyweight goat. Do we think Stipe is a heavyweight goat?
I can't list him as the heavyweight goat. I think at the moment Fedor Emelianenko is still the heavyweight goat. The reason being, Stipe probably has the best resume and the best consistency, but he's the most beatable of the people who I think should be counted amongst the heavyweight GOATs. And I don't think you can have the heavyweight GOAT be considered a person who you can see as like, I would put him near even odds with Francis Ngannou. I'd put him at near even odds with John Jones. And when you had Fedor Emelianenko going off, he was Ronda Rousey level odds. He was minus 800, minus 900. Yes, his level of competition was probably weaker. Stipe's fighting much better competition, but he doesn't seem as far ahead of the pack as the other heavyweight GOATs that are in contention. So his record speaks for itself. He is a fantastic fighter, but heavyweight GOAT, I do not know if that is the case just yet.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. I'm going to throw it out to the boys. Do we need to have a heavyweight GOAT? Or not heavyweight. Do we need to have a GOAT in every division? Because for me, I think, we're talking greatest of all time. Not only do they need that resume that the stat man's talking about with Stipe, but they need to have an aura. They need to have a feeling of invincibility. And I just don't get that with Stipe. So, following on from the stat man, I copy a lot of his picks. So I'm going to copy his response on this too. Look, it's hard for me to say he's the greatest of all time, although he's probably got... it's hard to argue against his resume, but he's just missing something for me to sign off and say, yep, hands down, the greatest of all time.
Khabib Nurmagomedov, that dude exudes that terrifying nature.
He does. It's like when you're talking, I think we talked on the live stream we talked about Tiger Woods, an athlete that transcends the sport. That's when people put Conor into a GOAT situation where they're like, who transcends the sport? Conor McGregor transcends the sport. Serena Williams transcends her sport. Michael Jordan transcends his sport. It's a good argument to have, but I agree. We probably don't need a heavyweight GOAT.
I reckon there's just got to be one GOAT.
Just a big GOAT.
One GOAT of MMA. But there's been many over the times when you think about it. Like the recent rumour mill, GSP versus Khabib, if that was to go ahead, that's two GOATs. I think if you put together the stats, it was something like they've both been undefeated for 17 years or something crazy. Mm-hmm. So a fight like that would be interesting. A GOAT off, I would call it.
They bang heads.
Yeah, two people won't be bloody marrying at each other, that's for sure. They'll be banging heads, as Dee would say. So yeah, I agree with Stoney on that. I reckon one GOAT only. Like, for example, women's division, Nunes. Easy.
Clear.
Even if Khabib and GSP throw down, let's assume Khabib takes that. Does it actually answer anything? For me, it's a firm no. I still... I agree. You can put fighters in past their prime and, it'll always have that asterisk. On the other hand, if GSP took the win, I think, that would be much more compelling. But I kind of don't want to see that fight just for that reason. Similar to why I never want to see Anderson Silva and GSP when they were both well past their prime, because to me that settled absolutely nothing in that debate. So, yeah, and another good one, we won't get into it, but the 145 GOAT, I think that's a fascinating discussion, and maybe let's bookmark that for another talking point somewhere down the line.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't want to drag this one on too long. I completely agree with Stoney. I think GSP probably hit his prime in 2009, 2010 almost. That's 10 years ago. So I agree that while it'd be another nice name for Khabib's record, having a victory over 36-year-old GSP who's only competed once in the last 6 years is probably not necessarily the way to do it. Very, very interesting concept, but we'll see where it lands.
We might just do this one quickly, but I don't know if it decided the outcome, but eye pokes.
Love him.
Yeah.
Get around it, boys. Nah, no, they're joking. Look, it was a pretty doozy one on the weekend, but I don't know if they can avoid it.
Do we need to look at the
MMA,
glove design, though?
Yeah, but what are you going to do? Put padding on the end of the thing? How then you fight the hands when you're in a sub? How do you try to get...
Are the UFC
the
gloves different to the Bellator gloves and the One Championship
They
gloves?
are different, yeah. There's a few different glove designs around. I don't have the exact... I think it's Duke Rufus, but I'm not 100% sure. But there is a MMA trainer that has a glove design that covers the fingers to the top knuckle. So it still allows perfect maneuverability during grappling, but it doesn't... it kind of forces your hand to curve a little bit, so you're not striking with outstretched fingers. Now, the UFC want exclusivity rights with their glove design, and they won't sign off unless he sells the design to them. I think it's Duke Rufus. I probably should fact check this before I say it, but a highly touted MMA coach has this glove design and the UFC won't use it until they can get exclusive rights, and he's not selling it. The UFC glove design cuts off below the first knuckle. Finger pokes, they almost decided the first DC-Stipe fight. A lot of people attribute DC's win in that fight to the glove design. The finger poke in Stipe's eye changed the fight irrevocably. Worked against him this fight. DC landed a nice finger poke in the first couple of rounds, and I was like, see, DC always pokes in the eye. And then Stipe got him back with like a disgusting finger poke in the eye. And who knows to what extent that affected the actual fight outcome. But until you change either the foul rule or the glove design, you're going to see it every now and again. You have to either give the refs the ability to say, all right, a groin strike or an eye poke, regardless of intent, the first one is always a 1-point deduction, regardless of intent, or you change the design around the gloves, the cups, permanently. Otherwise, they're just going to keep happening. How many eye pokes has John Jones got away with? How many eye pokes has DC gotten away with? Not to constantly shit on John Jones. I love DC, but he pokes every motherfucker in the eye. It's going to keep happening until a fundamental change in the game happens, either glove design or fouling related.
Finger poke of doom, boys.
Mate, it would be terrible. I wear contacts constantly. I wouldn't wear them in a fight, obviously, but can you imagine how bad it would be to be in a fight for your life against the best fighters in the world and have 25% vision or 50% vision, even 75% vision against a killer like Stipe Miocic with one eye like completely dead? Or
yeah, I'd be definitely going for the eye pokes early.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you might as well, because you don't get penalised for it. Your first eye poke's free. Even
Jesus,
second
this
eye
reminds
poke's
me
free.
of Craig. Sammy, you need to settle down. This reminds me when you talk about John Jones.
We might
Proceed, move on.
we might move on.
Sorry,
Look,
dear.
I took that as a firm, swat at John Jones again. DL, as a facilitator for this podcast, I want you to do something about this.
Nearly cut him off, mate. Seriously.
We'll talk about this later, Statman.
I'm sorry, boys.
Do we want to see a Sugar Sean versus Cheeto too?
Quick one from Snags, yes.
Quick one from Stoney. Really, really do not care. It didn't end the way that we wanted to see it, but if they go on to different fighters, it doesn't really matter. I wasn't that aroused by that fight, to be honest. Anyway, if they line Sugar Sean when he heals up with someone else, it is what it is. But what I really want to see is Sugar Sean against ranked or even borderline ranked opponents. I think that's where we're going to see the true test, and we hadn't seen that before. So long as he gets a good opponent, I don't care who it is or what their name is.
I'd be about it personally. I think for the UFC is probably the worst case scenario. Sugar Sean loses a bit of his mystique because he has that one on his record. Cheeto Vera doesn't get the bonus from defeating Sugar Sean because everyone just says, oh, it was just his leg was injured, yada, yada, yada. So I think a run back would be probably the best case for both fighters. Sugar Sean gets a chance at redemption. Cheeto Vera actually gets maybe some credit for a victory if he can get the victory. And I think that's probably the best case scenario.
Okay, boys, and we're going to look ahead quickly to UFC 253, which is shaping up to be a nice card. Undisclosed location at the moment, but there's 5 New Zealand fighters on that fight. Not that means anything, because it's probably going to be in America, in the Apex Center, but you never know. You never know. So looking ahead to UFC 243, Adesanya Costa. Boys, I just thought for something different. Let's just take some early predictions on this one. Snags.
First prediction would be that it's going to be in Tasmania, as I've previously said on the podcast.
The mayor's bringing it in.
Running for mayor again in 2021.
How's that campaign
so
going?
I'd love to... mate, it's going good. It's going to be even better when we sign this fight, boys. I'm going to go great fight, but I'll go with my boy Izzy. Our boy Izzy, sorry.
Stoney?
Yeah, look, firstly, I'd like to congratulate Sugar Sean on keeping the cases relatively low down in Tasmania, a phenomenal feat that,
well
certainly
Thank you, appreciate it.
my state hasn't accomplished. Don't know. Do like Izzy, but there's something just about Izzy that's just rubbing me the wrong way. But look, early predictions, I think Izzy's going to, maintain that space. I think he's going to avoid the big power strikes. That's what I think, but it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if he gets a little bit of a touch-up in this one. So We'll have to wait and see. I'm not going to give away my prediction just yet, DL, because I've got two boys watching on the other cameras and, they're taking notes. So I'm not going to fall into that trap. I know that was a nice little setup on your behalf.
I'm not a coward like Stoney, so I will jump out with my prediction. I reckon Paulo Costa is going to attack ferociously against Israel Adesanya, who is a great counter striker. So I think, unlike the Yoel Romero fight, we'll see plenty of action. I see Adesanya being able to get something happening on the Paulo Costa fight. I'm going to predict Adesanya, I reckon, and I'm really excited for the first UFC light heavyweight champion who is not John Jones or Daniel Cormier, and I think since 2011, when Reyes versus Blachowski fight. Blachowski? Blachowicz. Oh,
nice. Jesus.
I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'll have to UFC Fight Pass it, so find out how he.
That's a bad thing.
This is a first. I've never seen this ever.
Neither, but just throwing it out there. Estonia, I'd like to welcome you to the Tasmanian Cabinet. Your cautiousness has you promoted to Health Minister of Tasmania, so welcome, my friend.
You won't see.
Looking forward to working with you.
Yeah, I live to give, so you've made a good selection right there.
Awesome, great. I'll have to find a spot for you on the panel, DL. Sorry, mate. I'll keep working on that.
That's all right. I'll find my niche. Boys, what we might do now is maybe jump into a little prediction. But first, what I thought we'd do is just have a little quick recap from our newsbreaker.
Breaking news with Stoney.
That's right, boys. It's normally breaking news. This week, it's recapping the news. Obviously, we've had a little bit of a break on the podcast, so just a couple of stories that wanted to get the boys' thoughts on. The first one we just covered, so obviously Adesanya Costa, big fight that just got announced. Speaking of big fights, one that I'm really excited to watch go down. Everyone's favourite Republican, Colby Covington and Jerome Woodley. Now, this is one that's been in the making for, I would say, a good 18 months and just never seems to get done. A lot of jostling on both sides, saying he wouldn't sign. Don't know about you boys, but I'm really excited this one has got signed. It's been announced. I get the Woodley's, he's looked underwhelming in his last two fights. Even though Colby dropped the Usman fight, he's looked pretty phenomenal in his last couple of fights. But there's genuine bad blood, and if the stat man knows me, he knows I love a good feud, and I'm really looking forward to this one. And if more than the fight, I'm looking forward to the lead into this one, because I think there's going to be a lot of trash talk both ways. Woodley's going to drop some of those lines from his latest album. Colby, I can't wait to see what he's got in store, what his next gimmick is, but really excited for that one. So keen to get the boys' take in just a minute on that. I've got to give a shout out. Breaking news with Stoney has never had a loss up until now. So for a good 10 months, we had an undefeated streak, DL. Brett Okamoto couldn't do it, but Paige Van Zandt has done it. The boys will recall we predicted Paige Van Zandt would hang up the gloves at the end of her UFC contract, and that would be it. She would turn to Insta modeling or OnlyFans. We didn't know what it was, but we definitely didn't predict bare knuckle boxing. Now, this one's hit me for 6, and I'm keen to get the boys' take. How do we say that? Is that a wise choice from Paige, or what is she trying to accomplish here? Over to you.
Well, Stoney, firstly, I'll say congratulations because, mate, she has hung up the gloves. She ain't wearing the gloves anymore.
Touche.
Well done. Well done.
So breaking news with Stoney comes through as per usual. The number one newsbreaker in the business. You can go all the way back to, I think that was maybe February, Stoney.
That's a long time ago.
It's a long run, and it's a 39-day massacre we had over Brett Okamoto about the Cejudo and Aldo fight, which evidently didn't end up happening, but let's not let that get in the way of the story. We broke it first when it was, just on the cusp of being announced, and it took over a month before Brett caught up to BNWS. But yeah, Paige, she's got me, boys.
Mate, I'm sure people back in the day too would have been like, she's definitely not hanging up the gloves. Well, I'll stand corrected, fans, because she has.
Personally, I think that obviously her striking's probably not her main focus. Maybe what she wants to base her entire existence on. It's going to be interesting. I think it would be in the bare knuckle boxing, the organization's best interest to put her against absolute cans for the first couple of fights. Paige Van Zandt is still a name. She still has a huge social media following. So chuck her against some cans, let her get some easy victories. But she's I wouldn't say primarily a submission-focused fighter, but her striking is not elite level. And it's a dangerous profession to get into if you like the configuration of your face, which PVZ has every right to. So cautiously pessimistic on this one.
That's the best way to put it. I think she's just trying to prove something. I think the main quote out of it, I'm not just a pretty face. She wants to be known as a fighter. Every meme came out from that. The best way to go to wreck a pretty face is to bare knuckle box. But good luck to her. She's going to get some good money out of it. I think it's the contract's north of $1 million. I think it's
huge money.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So if it's north to $1 million, 3 to 4 fights, 4 fights maybe. I think it's 4 fights. And they'll get a lot of air from that. So well done for the promotion for signing her, and hey, good luck, Paige.
I reckon she should get on the boys' table tennis run next time.
Cash to burn.
And what do we think, boys? The other fight, so the big one. I'll say this one's the main event. Colby Covington, Tyrone Woodley. How do we feel about that?
I think you were being very, very, very kind to Tyrone Woodley by saying that he had been somewhat disappointing in his last couple of fights. He hasn't looked like anything like the Tyrone Woodley that came up through Strikeforce and made his debut into the UFC. Even the Tyrone Woodley that got the title. Colby Covington, despite losing his last fight and despite having a personality that I cannot stand whatsoever, has looked amazing. Even in the Usman fight where he lost, he looked phenomenal. No one picked that fight to be amazing, but holy shit, that was an amazing fight. I think that if Tyrone Woodley shows up even remotely like he does in his last 4 fights, I think he's genuinely going to get wrecked. So, I mean, Covington could potentially eventually make a fan out of me, which is one of the 4 sides of the apocalypse. So I'm very, very scared. Should be interesting.
Look, I got my boy Colby. I'm coming around to him. I like the gimmick, to be honest. Reminds me a bit of myself. Bit of a cross between Snags and Stoney, I think. So
0 Snags,
roll
plenty
on.
of Stoney. Mate, don't ruin Colby. He's nothing like you. He's nothing like you.
Differ.
Nothing.
I'm pretty sure he's a 4-strike white belt.
Nothing. No. DL, cut this segment right now. Let's move on.
Just quickly, I'm a big Woodley fan, but I think Covington is probably going to take this one. So unfortunately,
4-strike white belt for the win, baby.
But boys, we might jump into predictions. We're just looking at the 2 fights. Obviously, our comeback podcast. So we just wanted to delve a little bit into a card. So we're just going to take this one, and Statman's going to take us through the 2 fights.
Cool. So we head to UFC Vegas 8, and we head into the co-main event. We've got the welterweight bout between Robbie Lawler and Neil Magny. Robbie Lawler has had only one other year-long plus layoff, and it ended with him being submitted by Ben Askren in 2019. Lawler is a man who performs better when he's active. In calendar years where he fights 3+ times, he is 18-3. Otherwise, he is 10, 11-1. And I do see the trend continuing. It's been a little while between drinks for Robbie Lawler. He's getting up in age. He's 39 years old. He's fighting Neil Magny, who I have been running for about the last 6 or 7 years as potentially a big factor in the welterweight division. It seems that every time he gets close to the top, he loses spectacularly. I am taking Neil Magny in this fight by decision. I think it is a gutsy brawl. I think Robbie Lawler brings it. I just think that he's probably lost a little bit. Finally, age has caught up to him, and Neil Magny should be able to take this one.
Yeah, look, I have to agree. Neil Magny, someone I've not tipped against on the podcast. Let the record show that, boys. You all tipped against him against Lee Jingling at UFC 248. He then touched up Rocco Martin. I really like him. And the reason I really do like him, I heard him, he was mentioned on the Joe Rogan podcast. We're going back 4 or 5 years as being someone that was just regarded as one of the best fighters in the world, but just hasn't been able to put it together on the big stage. But they say behind closed doors, this guy is as good as anyone. I thought I'm going to take notice of this man and just see what he's all about. And, you know, for the most part, I've his wins really stand out. I absolutely accept what the stat man said, that he falters when he gets close to the big stage. I know he's got a loss to Rafael dos Santos and a couple more in there, but every time I see him fight, I'm impressed by this guy, the way that he just maintains distance in the octagon. He's solid, I just think, everywhere. I just can't see this fight going any other way than a Neil Magny win.
How good would it be to see Robbie Lawler get up, though? It would be fantastic. It would be so good. Me too, like Neil Magny's coming off. I don't think he was amazing in his last fight, but got the decision. The fight before that, he also got the decision. But his skill set's too far great for Robbie Lawler. I think the Ks are on the clock for Robbie. It would be I would not be sad to lose this one, just to be smart and take it Neil Magny.
Are we doing predictions on this, like finish?
Yeah, we can. I'll take I'll take decision.
Yeah, decision.
Yep, working our way back,
Snags
I'll take decision as well on that.
Okay, guys, what did you go?
Yeah, I went decision.
Well, Snags wanted to buck the trend and never go the safe option. Go on, Robbie Lawler, boys. Ruthless Robbie going to bring one back for Snags. When you're this far behind the lead, boys, no decision is unacceptable. So I'm going to go Robbie Lawler, round 3 TKO.
It's not a bad pick, honestly. Like,
I know
Robbie
it's not.
Lawler
That's why I went it.
is a dog, but
don't call him a dog while I'm on podcast.
it was a complimentary dog.
He's a
not
junkyard
an Australian dog.
A junkyard dog.
It was a complimentary
savage.
dog.
He's a dog in this fight.
Savage.
Well, mate,
He's a dog.
He's a
if
dog in
Snags
this
gets
fight.
up on this one, bloody hell, send home the bookies.
Move on to the main event of the evening. We got Anthony Smith versus Alexander Rakic in the light heavyweight division. One of the craziest things about Anthony Smith is just how long he's been in the game. He's actually got 48 professional fights. The first 30 fights of his career ended before the final bell, with only 2 coming after round 2. The man has experience beyond what you would normally expect from him. In saying that, I do think that Alexander Rakic takes this fight. I don't expect it to be like a one-sided affair or anything like that, but I do see Alexander Rakic taking it in, I'm going to say, the second round with a KO. I think that the Glover Teixeira fight with Anthony Smith, which we spoke about at length after the fact, might have shaved some longevity off Anthony Smith's career. I think that was a fight that could have been stopped maybe 4 rounds earlier than it was, definitely 3 rounds earlier than it was, and it just kept going. So couple that with Anthony Smith's run-in with the home intruder, I have to think that Anthony Smith is probably looking for a quiet end to his 2020 finish. So I'm taking Alexander Rakic via second round TKO.
Look, I called it on the potty. I think the home invader did a number on Anthony. He's just looking, I don't throw this around lightly. He's looking putrid at the minute, and I can't for the life of me, even entertain the thought of him winning this fight. So I'm going to go one better. I'm going to go round 1 to Alexander, and I'm going to throw it out there even further. I'm never going to pick Anthony Smith again for as long as this podcast runs. So I don't care who he could be matched up with Sugar Sean in an unlosable event, and I'm still going with my man Sugar Sean.
Was it the Glover fight or was it the home invader fight?
It's just a string of bad fights. He's had a lot of losses lately, both inside and outside, and I'm off him. I wish him well, but I don't think this game's for him. As you say, he's 48 professional fights. He doesn't look like someone with that level of experience. And even in the Glover fight, it's not like he was fighting a young up and comer who's about to take over the division. He's fighting someone who's he's got big experience himself, but he's also been made to look, second rate at times. And I know that's a big call for Glover Teixeira, but Anthony Smith just looked a level below, and it's you don't often see the difference being that big at this level.
Look, boys, a bit of background on that from Stoney's pick. Stoney actually had Anthony Smith against the home invader in his multi, and he had Smith as the winner. So he's still filthy that the home invader got up, and he's ruined his multi. That's why he's so filthy on him. But Stoney, touche, my friend. Well played.
Boys, I'm going to be pretty boring here. I'm going to go exactly the same as the stat man. I also like the second round KO as well to be the same as the stat man. Take a little bit of Stoney's work. See if it can help me get back into the game.
What's going on here?
Back in the game.
I'll see what's going on
You're
here.
just going straight my picks the entire card, DL.
Yeah, but mate.
Interesting.
It's an interesting concept. It's worked for some. So I'm also going to put a little bit of money on Snags, no gi.
Oh, agreed firmly. Oh, no
no
gi.
Oh, you want to get him in the gi?
Jesus. I think I'd have more chance in the gi.
Scarf choke, my friend.
Bow and arrow choke, my friend. Look, boys, I'm going to go not the same round, but I'm going to go round 3 TKO, just to be different from the boys. We're going to get the same pick. I don't think Smith will get this done. So, Snags, round 3 TKO.
Doesn't look good for our
No.
boy Smith.
I like Anthony Smith quite a lot. I think he seems like a nice enough fella. He seems down to earth. He seems relatively intelligent. But with like close to 50 fights, including the beating that he took, I think that was what was hardest about the Glover Teixeira fight. Knowing the amount of abuse that he's gone through, plus seeing like what an intelligent analyst that he could possibly make in the future, watching him take such unnecessary damage in that fight, that was probably the hardest fight I've had to watch. And it's made me just kind of hope that he loses nice and quick, and he maybe realizes that MMA has kind of passed him and he's got a future outside of MMA. I'm not saying that he's done completely. I just kind of hope that he is, so he can get out with the cognitive ability that he still has left.
Nice. Well, boys, we're coming to the end of the podcast. We're moving into another newish segment. It's still the sugar value, but we got a little bit of feedback saying we're a little bit unrealistic with our sugar value, so people lose a little bit of cash.
I don't know what
I
they're
don't
talking
know.
about.
Mate, it's disgusting. Disgusting, these DMs. They got blocked, so it's unfortunate for them. So what we thought we'd do is have a bit of fun. Everyone likes a good punt. We want to be educated with our punts. So we're going to go around the boys. We're going to build a multi. We're going to actually put some money on this multi each weekend after a podcast. Then we're going to start a kitty, and we're going to build that kitty up. So, boys, I'm going to kick us off. So, boys, first leg for us on the Rib Punters Club. I'm actually going to take Oklahoma City Thunder to beat the Houston Rockets in the series. That odds, it's kind of high. We're looking at around $5.50. But I've got some faith. Russell Westbrook's still out with a quad. Thunder got one back yesterday. Is tomorrow, I think, or the next day.
So what are we? We're 2-1 down?
We're 2-1 down. Yep.
All right. I've got faith.
All right.
Yep.
I'll chuck Ion Kudalaba. His fight with Magomed Ankalaev. It's the second meeting of the two. The first fight ended controversially with what I believe to be Ion faking an injury to lure Magomed in. The referee called the fight with an abundance of caution. They've rebooked the fight. It's probably the worst stoppage that a referee's done in the last 10 years. Ion's a heavy dog. He's $4.15. I am taking him. I reckon he has the ability. If there was a market for it, I would be picking him to finish it by KO. However, Sportsbet at the time of looking does not have a market for it, so I'm taking him straight at $4.15 to win this fight and adding it into the multi.
Nice.
I think it's a safe pick.
What were the odds there, Statman?
Ion is $4.15. Magomed is paying $1.22.
And a safe pick?
I reckon it's a safe pick. The first fight, they were, from memory, quite close to even, and the only difference between this fight and the last fight was Magomed got a bullshit victory. So I'm taking Ion. I reckon he'll come out with a bone to pick and a score to settle.
Very good. Do we have some trending odds, DL, on what that looks like?
Yeah, it's $19.92 at the moment. So Oklahoma City Thunder were $4.80. I got me odds wrong. So they've shortened.
All right.
So can you try to bring us something a little bit shorter, Stoney?
I can. I'm going to bring a bit of sense to this podcast.
Didn't realise Statman was going to throw us a $4.15.
Sure bet.
I would have got the Ion if it was straight odds, man, honestly.
An ironclad $4 plus. I love it. Look, I'm going to bring you a bit of sense. We're going back to the Australian Footy League. We're going Sugar Snags' favourite club in the history of favourite clubs, the Geelong Cats, to beat the Western Bulldogs at the line of a negative 9.5. So $1.90 right there on the Geelong Cats to win by 10 points or more.
Oh, you're taking the line. I like that.
I thought you were going to bet on the Rabbits. I was getting excited. Okay, boys, I've got an ultimatum for you. I've got a blue pill and a red pill. Consensus in the room. One is a safe bet, and one is the not favourite bet. So, Stoney, blue or red?
Blue.
Blue. Is that man?
I'll go blue.
Oh, predictable. Copy.
Blue.
Okay, well, blue it is, boys. Looks like we're going to the darts world.
Darts.
No,
Yeah,
not
boy.
Darts. Stay away from darts.
Is it $1.30?
So, boys. No, it is not $1.30. I've gone a bit heavier than $1.30, boys. So I think we've actually bet on this man before, DL. Peter Wright.
Yeah, boy.
Premier League darts. He's playing on Wednesday at 6:25. Paying $1.83.
That's not bad.
So he's a bit of a firm favourite for us.
$1.83.
Yep, against Glenn Durant. So not related to Kevin Durant, I don't think, and I hope not because he's got a good shot on him. So we'll see how we go. So I hope our boy Peter Wright gets up. Peter, if you listen to the podcast, buddy, just keep playing for those. Is it a 9-dart game, mate? 9-dart game. That's what we're after from you. Do you want to know what the red pill was?
Yeah, what was the red pill?
Broncos over the Roosters, paying $11.
Oh, I'm glad we went with darts. Well, the first run at Back Punters Club multi is in the bag. So we'll probably just put a tenner on there. We'll play smart about this. $693 payout. So we'll boost it, though. We'll boost it. Sportsbet will let it boost it to $817. So
if this gets up,
hey, between
we're
now
rolling
and
into
when we place the bet, if Iron Kutalaba gets gets some markets in him, I'm absolutely going to push for you to put him on finish because I reckon he finishes this fight.
You got to place it before Wednesday because my bloke plays on Wednesday.
That's true. That's true. Oh God, come on, Sportsbet.
You got to place now.
Anyway, we'll get this organised and we'll put this up on our socials and everything as well. If you want to follow along or have a punt as well, we'll stick it up there.
Someone tag Peter in it, please. Get him around the potty.
Anyway, boys, that wraps up episode 31. If you like what we're doing, hit us up on all our socials. Please like, share, comment, or subscribe to the podcast. That's us for episode 31, boys. My name is Daniel.
My name is Sugar Snags.
My name is Craig.
And my name is Stoney.
And we'll catch you all on the next Runner Back podcast.
Nicely done.
Can you tell you what song can you play on the outro?
Our outro?
Can you play Welcome Back from Lupe Fiasco?
I could do that.
Do we have the rights for it?
We don't need the rights, baby.
We don't make any money off these things anyway.
And money's all from bets. I think go to Bet365 sponsorship.
Yeah.
Oh,
We've been talking sports betting the whole entire time we've been running this podcast. Yeah. And we've not had an email about sponsorship from a betting agency.
Surely someone knows a connection.
Oh, our boys from Punchless MMA, they know.
Oh, we only want base and bonus bets.
Let's go.
Funny.
Yeah,
Anyway, boys.
That's it.